battery
Is this your
size.
stuff? You put it there, because I know. when
Okay,
I-
it's back, Dale. It's
Good.
back.
Okay, questions? Yeah.
Might be, yeah.
Now,
And I haven't
is it
heard from Ralph
enough
at
for
all.
him the wrong way?
What?
I said
Wide enough
it's
for
a
him?
three different emails.
I
I said it's a three different emails, so.
He's at the end, so that's good.
Oh, that's excellent.
No, but wait a second. Bruce is going to be on the farther
I mean, I
away.
don't know which is
It's
the
closer.
preferred email.
It's gonna be to
Because
the
when I was
other
on the
side.
trip, eventually we connect.
Can you see me?
I'm confused about the,
Yeah, right. I recognize that. Right.
Only if I look over there.
One of our stalwarts, it's kind of in Roy's eyes.
What is it in his
It's
eye?
not, no, it's okay.
Probably one of them.
He didn't focus, so it won't happen.
This is very good. It is for a while.
ask Roy when he's not doing this.
Okay.
Ask me what?
Is it officially 9:30 yet? People can start asking you questions.
Nope, 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Roy, could you sit down 1 second? I just wanted to get your name on
No,
the
I
screen.
stand up.
That's fine, I just,
Yeah,
that's cool.
okay. Since everybody here is currently should be connected to the Wi-Fi, I thought I'd look it all.
Why it keeps switching me over to Mason?
Dude, I can't get on the Mason Secure.
You can.
No, I cannot get on the Mason Secure. For whatever reason, my laptop goes to Mason,
Yeah,
the open one, but that isn't connected to the internet.
but if you click the Mason Secure, what's it change?
Right, it sort of thinks about it for a while.
Well,
Okay,
yeah.
wait.
I'm on Mason Secure and that's working.
Yeah, you should be able to get there from the settings. It should.
Yeah, but if it's not already in there, you have to make a initial connection before it will remember
And
it.
you could tell it to forget Mason then. I mean, if it-
Yeah,
just tell it to forget that one.
This is in the reach now.
Now it is, yes. good.
okay, now it is.
You think you can use that in Q&A? You might use the screen.
Yeah, I might.
Um,
We can switch back to.
Back to three.
Three. I need a little mirror. That's right. I have a little mirror here, so
Little did I
see
know
the
that
screen.
purely
Yeah,
because of
okay.
Gail's ingenuity, we are actually doing this using the webcam method to broadcast this to the Pi YouTube page.
Oh.
So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably ought to do a Facebook thing to let people know that.
Very small audience. One is
Yeah.
So the Mason development person and get talked to us and all that.
Yeah.
And then we need the arts and sciences thing for the scholarship.
for that.
When I first proposed this, I assumed there was a way we could apply this to the Pi Scholarship.
Uh-huh.
But because it's the separate thing, instead we're actually, which I think is sort of cool, the Pi is now, endowing at a $500 rate, a computer gaming scholarship.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Wow.
Anyway, what she told me was that an engineering festival is coming up that they would like us to participate in later on, and that is something that would be plugged into the Pi Scholarship.
Interesting.
So the sharp irony about the Pi these days is that we don't have a lot of members, but we have a lot of money to spend. If the board agrees, and if we want to go over 1,000 members for the
Right.
membership.
Well, don't spend me out of budget.
So I assume Bruce is going to come.
Can't assume anything.
It's actually here by now. He's fine.
Well, he may be having some health issues.
Oh, is he okay?
I don't know. That's the maybe part.
I have a friend that we were visiting in California that worked for the Fish and Game Department as a diver, and he hadn't upgraded to Catalina today. So he said he's anxious to update to Catalina because
Deeper diving?
he used to dive on the cove that's shown in the picture.
Oh,
I recognize that part.
Catalina isn't that big an island, is it?
Not too big, no. And not much populated either. It used to be like a reserve. Avalon is I don't know how big Avalon is now. We haven't been there in many years, 30 years probably.
Can't be from here.
That's the old Avalon Ballroom?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Lombardo days?
In what days?
I think it was a Guy Lombardo.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure if it was that one or not, but there is a ballroom there, and a gazebo, and a lot of the rich Hollywood people used to go there.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've tested since iOS 13, the drawing method of using the keyboard is native to the iPhone, so I don't have to use the swipe extra keyboard. But one thing that I've been experimenting with is just to make a judgment on whether it's any better or worse than swipe. And you know what I found? It's not any better or worse. In other words, it has the same quirky
Quirky days.
birth things
Yes.
that swipe does.
I find it amazing that it even works.
And what does?
This swiping, I think, I don't use it much, but it's amazing.
You know, but one thing I do have to say is that it only contributes, I think, to the antitrust look at Apple. Because the problem is, you can't say it's bad for anyone to look at swipe and say we can do that better or more easily. But if the way Apple decides to do it is because they have access to data that other people aren't.
Yeah.
That's problematic.
I have noticed that sometimes when I'm sending a message, that it is amazing how interpretive it is, finding out the next word. I'll start typing something, and the next word is up there, and the next word's up there, and you can almost, I don't know whether it's part of AI built in, what your pattern is.
That is a
I guess,
Yeah, good luck with one year me.
Because it is amazing, all I have to do is type one letter, and boom, there's the next word.
no, I mean, other than that.
So it's pretty cool.
Well, let's see here, in case.
Yeah.
Well, it is 9:30 now.
Hang on, guys.
Everybody, let's
Wait a
actually
minute.
start, and more people
Wait.
will.
Minute. Let's get it on video.
Donji, are you ready to go?
Everybody connected to Wi-Fi? The message how to connect there is there. Has everybody attended? Everybody's got their attendance?
So let me try to not stand in front of the camera that Dale did for the streaming thing. But for our streaming audience, we're starting here with a Q&A for the February 2020 general meeting. So Roy Wagner, take it away.
Okay. Yep. Open for Q&A. I'm currently accessing my registering that I'm at the general meeting, like everybody should be doing. All the people online too. So, where's that? You have a question?
I have a couple of questions.
Diana has a couple of questions.
One thing has been bothering me a long time on my old laptop is a jumpy cursor. I have a trackpad, and I swear that when I'm typing, I am not accidentally touching the trackpad. I'm a touch typist, so I keep my hands up a little bit. And yet every once in a while, I will suddenly find that the cursor has jumped a couple of lines. And I'm now typing in the middle of a paragraph
No.
instead of down where I wanted to be, at the end of the document. And I don't know how to fix that. Is there a way to fix that? Do you know of any
Ooh,
cure for that?
that sounds like it was a Bruce question. Bruce is not here. The only thing I can think of is, that it could be something, the keyboard dirty or some shorting out of, or static could be doing it too. With dry air and winter, is it occurring
It seems to be all year round.
all year round?
No
Okay.
particular time.
I had a problem like that. And it was, I had both the touchpad and the mouse close to each other.
Oh,
I
And
don't
so
use
the
a
mouse
mouse.
would kind of, just be
yeah.
sitting there, not touching anything. And the mouse would be sort of slowly migrating, or the cursor would be
Right.
migrating
Acting
off
like a
of the
mouse.
key. So that was using both a mouse and a.
No, I never use a mouse.
Okay, well,
Does anybody else have that problem using a trackpad?
I think Mary asked me about it one time, saying she had that issue also, but, I don't know if she could hear what I said.
Mary, did you have that type of problem with your mouse or moving the cursor around
A
on
jumping
the screen,
cursor,
jumping
when
cursor?
you use your
I
laptop.
don't remember, but, my keyboard every once in a while, if I'm trying to type a message or something, I'll find that my cursor has moved someplace else.
Well,
That's what I
I'm
mean.
waiting till the new keyboard comes out.
Okay. No fix that.
so
anybody
no
knows
solution
of.
there. Yeah. You had another question,
Oh,
or
well,
or somebody else have a question? No, go ahead.
all right, my other question, and I'll probably get, a failing grade for not being savvy enough, but when I was using my iPad yesterday,
Right?
I opened up a page online and it locked up and all I got was the spinning thing. And I want to know how you can, when you're using an iPad, not a regular desktop, how you can get a page to stop and just cancel it, get rid of it when that happens.
What was it spinning? Was it spinning for an app or spinning in Safari?
No,
or-
it was Safari. It was
Safari.
trying to open, actually, it was trying to open up the mail message that Jonathan sent us about this meeting, which had, I think, a large image in it.
Actually, a medium image.
Medium.
I resized it so it wouldn't be so
Well,
big.
whatever it was,
Yeah.
it seemed to be making my iPad choke on it, and I couldn't get rid of it. I didn't know how to get rid of the page. Just tell it to stop trying to load it.
You could just close the tab. Whoop. I've got to find an example. There we go. Yeah, if it's spinning on something and you don't want it there, you just click on you should be able to click on the tab. And
It hasn't changed the,
Oh, it hasn't done it yet.
And I don't think I was able to get that to work either, although I don't remember now.
Oh, I'm on one. I clicked.
I think I had a similar problem where even restarting the browser would start again with the same page that was causing me trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Persist.
I using another browser, I searched, how do you make that stop? And there was a way to delete the history for the browser, delete the current history for the browser, and then restart the browser that had the problem, and then it didn't remember to load that page that caused the problem.
And that was on your iPad?
That was on my iPad.
Because I don't have any other browser available
Yeah.
on an iPad.
But I would
You
just
can
say,
install Firefox or,
Maybe I can, but
it's always good having, in a case of
never
emergency
really wanted
browser.
to on the iPad.
yeah, I would just say, just if you click on the tab, you should be able to just exit.
I had tried a great many things, and the browser insisted on, really wanted to reload that
That
page.
page.
Yeah.
And so, I
I
had to
couldn't.
hammer and tong, clear the history close the browser, clear the history for the browser, restart it, and then it didn't remember that it was supposed to load
Yeah.
that trouble page.
Right.
That's a lot of stuff to go to get rid of one page.
It actually wasn't, the research was the hard part.
Yeah.
so Diana, were you trying to access the groups.io online page? Is that what you were trying to do? The Apple Pie email?
Well, it was from my normal mail account. Now, my mail account
So
is a combination of my my Mac mail and the iMail. They all come into the same screen.
Right, but you could have just read the email using your mail, not have to go to the browser at all. So what caused you to go to a browser?
Well, it's possible that I was just using my regular mail. I mean, I don't have my iPad with me today, and
Yeah.
I can't duplicate what I did.
did it happen
And it could
yesterday?
have been that I had just opened up my regular mail account, and that was where the message was, and that's where this was happening.
Did it happen yesterday?
Yeah.
I had strange things happening with my iPad yesterday, or maybe it was the desktop. I was connected to Wi-Fi, and I was trying to read email, and it had images, and the email I was getting didn't have any images, and I couldn't click on the link there and
Right.
get the image, and then
Which comes to another, I mean, if it was my regular Apple Mail account,
right, it may have been a server
then
problem.
it has nothing to do with what Gabe was saying about working with different browsers.
Yeah. It may have been a server problem, through one of the servers, whether it was your home Wi-Fi or the server that was feeding it.
Maybe,
It's-
but it certainly didn't want to load that message.
Yeah. Well, I got, like I said, I got an email the other day, and it had all the images had just links, where it just says, it just had pictures. And I couldn't figure it out. I sent an email to the person that sent it saying, hey, you just sent me this thing, and the links don't work.
Right.
And he said, they work for me. And I went back, and it didn't do it. And I clicked on it, and like a couple minutes later, they came. And that seems to be a common tech problem. I know that's always a strict, I've noticed that in the past for years. If you report a tech problem to a tech person, they say, there's no problem. Next minute, it starts working. So usually it's the tech person says, there's what the problem is. Let's correct that. And say, there's no problem.
Must be their core or something.
Yeah.
Roy, do you want to slide your chair over if
Oh.
Bruce isn't going to be here, just so you'll be more frontally in the screen picture?
Frontal?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, who's next?
Who's next? Question.
I have one.
Go back to 3.
Yeah.
Back to the.
I have a MacBook Air and I broke the screen,
Ooh.
so I got that away.
Oh,
And I looked at some fix-it websites on how to replace the screen. It's a whole assembly, but I'd rather not do it alone because of the number of screws. Is that Clubhouse a good place to do that?
Clubhouse is a great place if Bruce is going to be there.
Because I don't mind trying to do it on my own, but I just would rather
Yeah.
not be sitting by myself.
I think Bruce would have experience with it and he'd love to do it. Clubhouse is a good thing, and just making sure, contact Bruce Brown and say, are you going to be at the next Clubhouse?
Okay.
I've got a screen to replace, and he'll be there to help, because he was talking recently about replacing, updating batteries in iPhones. So he knows how to do that too. I'm not sure what that does to the warranty on it, but if you have an old iPhone or something that needs a battery, he knows how to replace those too. But that seems kind of tricky too. And I know I had an old iMac, and MacBooks might vary just like an iMac, and I have an old iMac, and I wanted to do something with the disk drive, and I called the tech people. But Jonathan, what's the name of the tech group that's in Bethesda that we?
Silver Spring?
In Silver.
The Mac?
Yeah, the Mac.
Recycle Thing?
No, not the
No, not
recycle,
that,
but
the other
the
group.
fellow that spoke at our meeting that has a Mac. I can't remember the name because it's not a Mac name.
Sorry, are you talking about Experiment?
Yeah, Experiment.
Experamax is how they changed the name.
Experamax. Yes. Well, I called him, and with this iMac, the interesting thing was, he said, okay, I can access that drive because the screen is held on by magnets. But you take the next level of newer iMacs and they're glued. So it's a much more trickier thing. And years ago, I had an iMac drive that was making a lot of noise. So I brought it to Apple, and they decided that they could fix the drive. And I later get a call and say, can we replace your iMac? So I don't know what they had done, but trying to replace the drive, they had damaged gaining access to the drive, and I got a new iMac from that. But that was about 5 years ago. But that was kind of an interesting thing to happen. Mac people trying to remove the screen from the drive from an iMac. So Bruce, Roach Bruce with it, and
Okay.
he could probably help you at a clubhouse. Another question? Okay.
So this isn't so much a question as an observation. So I have iOS 13 on a new iPhone 11. And every so often, like the camera app and Wikipedia just kind of freeze up. So like when I have the camera app open, it's just a black screen. You can't take a picture, can't, change it from photo to video, and the Wikipedia page just comes up with a W, and you can't enter any. It comes up with so it's loading the page, but you can't enter anything. And the only way to seem to fix this is to restart the iPhone. I reinstalled the Wikipedia app, and that didn't fix it. So I don't know. It's not a huge problem, but I guess I'm just surprised that I'm up to the latest version of iOS 13.
The camera problem hasn't gone away.
I use the camera regularly.
You had to restart to get the camera back and all that.
Every now and again,
Yeah.
it just turns into a black
I
screen.
think that's-
With the camera app down there, it's like the camera lens is covered or something.
I've seen that myself.
Okay.
I'm getting kind of suspect in some of these updates in iOS
Yeah.
13.
No, I suspect it's
I
something.
think they've got a lot of glitches. They've got a lot of updates, and I'm not sure they're telling us all the problems that they're discovering. Because I've had a lot of strange things happening recently myself, and not knowing what's causing them.
What else have you had happen?
Well, the same thing of the not getting some information on the screen, and,
Right.
the camera going dark like that. I think I had that problem.
Okay.
But it just goes away. I haven't had to restart, but that, of course, is always the bottom line. Last
Well, if I swipe away and kill the app, bring it back, it's still a black screen, so I have to restart the iPhone. And that can be kind of a nuisance because you turn it off and the screen goes black, but it seems like it takes several seconds for it to actually go off.
Right.
And then I get distracted, get onto something else, realize I haven't turned the phone back on.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
I know at home, I was updating my iMac because when I got home from 3-week vacation, my iMac said that it had an update for Mac OS. And so I went to update it. And I think, I went to update it and it said it had to restart, and it restarted and everything like that. And it went through it. The next thing I know, I'm looking at the screen. It's saying 41 minutes it'll restart. I started panicking, thinking, what did I do? Reinstall the entire operating system? I click on the wrong button, and then eventually sped along.
I've had that long time, but
Yeah,
most of the time it comes
it usually
back.
goes quick, but it kind of really scared me when I clicked on this thing. It said, am I resetting my whole iMac again? Click on get the new update, but it went and updated.
While we were on the subject of camera problems, it occurred to me that I've had something happen with mine on this older iPhone. And I've been taking a lot of video of my granddaughter playing basketball with me. But what happens is that I'll be taking a clip and I want it to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't get it to shut off. And I hit the button,
Right.
stopping and starting.
Yep.
And it just will not stop running.
Keeps going.
And sometimes I have to hit it pretty hard several times before it will shut down.
Huh.
Is that a common problem?
I haven't seen that. Have you tried hitting the volume one too? Because that's a way to start and stop a
No, I
clicker.
I really never use those buttons.
But you could try that.
Try using that.
Try that and see if it might stop it. If for some reason the screen is not, sensing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to learn how to do more editing to cut off those
Yeah.
shots of the floor or my feet or whatever it is while I'm trying to get it to stop.
Yes.
One thing, with all manner of iPhone issues, the first thing almost always is to restart the phone. I can't tell you the number of squirrely things that when I remember to just turn it off and start it again are fixed.
Yes. Yes. Right.
Yeah, probably. But in the middle of the hot action,
I know.
I'm not really anxious to go through a week
You
on the
can't
phone,
restart it.
and then I miss a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, it's just really annoying problem that it's propped up sometimes.
That would be. Yeah, I guess, I mean, the only alternative thing would be to just try to stop it and then, you know, stop the photo app, right? I mean, just wipe it
Yeah,
off.
I've done that. But,
Yeah. But it seems like it's just not sensing, you know, the finger that you're touching it to the, you know, where you're touching it. That shouldn't.
Well, I have a lot of trouble with trying to use my fingerprints to do things too, so
Yeah,
maybe the screen just isn't sensitive enough or something.
sense it, right? Yes.
Going back to the problem with the camera app, I have no idea what's causing it. But if you're trying to take a picture of something critical, try one of the multitude of other camera apps available. You know, I have many. I probably have half a dozen or more on my phone. Some of them I probably haven't used in years.
Yeah,
Is Camera Plus still available?
It is.
yeah.
Camera Plus I have on my first homepage, so. But there are many others with photo apps.
But there are,
But-
have a number of.
That's a good idea, is put another one of the photo apps right next to your camera app, and when it does crop up, press
Well,
that one.
plus, if that is either a software or hardware issue, and the other camera app works, it should provide some evidence to, you know, to Apple.
Yeah.
If Camera Plus works and Apple camera doesn't work, hey, Apple, you have a problem.
Yeah. Kind of speaking of cameras, I just came back from a 3-week vacation, and with the iPhone 11 Plus, I have all the camera, the wide angle, the regular, and the close-up. And I've got to say that is really nice being able to switch between all those three when you're on vacation and you want to take a big panel or a big wide screen or close-up. It really works amazingly. I'm glad I updated, because I updated to prep for another trip. Yes.
The question I have is, since it has 3 lenses, and I have one too, but it also has a wheel that you can dial in between them.
Yes.
Is that doing a digital rebuild of the information? Because it can't be, or is it mixing opticals? Yeah. What's going on?
On the camera, there's an extent, and I haven't looked at it for the 11, how far it goes, but there is an extent of how much is optical and then how much is just digital enhancement. And I know years ago on my other iPhones, I always used to tell the group that basically, if you zoomed in and, you know, tried to blow up the image you were taking, it was not any different than taking the normal picture and getting home and re-editing it, because it's just a digital zoom. It's just capturing so many bit pixels. And then when you blow out, increase or limiting the pixel display.
Sure, but the difference is you're going past the limits, the limits that are imposed by the optical system.
Right.
And I'm talking about ones that are in between the two extremes on the 3 panels.
Yes. I
So
don't think those
do you
would
know
count.
do you know what it's doing in there to allow you to, to have a continuous dial
Yeah,
between them?
I am not sure. I haven't researched that.
Yes.
I would, imagine it's an optical range until it gets to the one point where it starts
I
turning
think
digital.
one way you could test that is just to stick your finger over one or more of the lenses and see which lens is being used.
Right. But you don't know with the dial when you.
Right, but I say, because I know the 3 lenses are because I tried this with my finger, I just was curious about a similar question. So the lens, the middle one sticking out towards the center is the wide angle lens. I think the one at the top is the 1, and the one at the bottom is the 2. So if you're at 1.5, you might just cover up. We can try right now. Cover up one or the other and see which lens is being used. I would guess it's only one lens or the other.
Yeah.
That it's not going to try to. Well, I don't know. I mean,
Well, I think when
they're-
you go to think of the dial, it's using one lens. It's using
right. Yes.
the
But
the optical zoom lens.
that was your question, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can. It's not moving anything mechanically inside like a DSLR zoom lens would do.
Not sure how, I know, it's probably some
Yeah.
digital optics or something. I don't know, but that's good.
It's a neat
It's a
question.
good thing to test. I think I'll have to test that myself. Basically take a picture at the low end and then zoom and take a couple more pictures and go to the other and take them and then look at them on the desktop and see what the pixel counts are, or see whether it enhances the picture at all.
Okay, while we're on the photography binge, I discovered an app just a few weeks ago that is useful on the newer iPhones when you're taking video. iPhone 10 or 11 that have multiple cameras. An app called Double Take, DOUBLETAKE, one word, allows you to take video through 2 or if you have 3 lenses simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
And there's an option to combine it into one image that has basically 3 cameras in one image, or to just take separate video streams. And I still haven't tried it. I'm looking for an opportunity when it would be useful.
Sounds
But
good.
perhaps a parade where you'd like a video of the entire parade passing by.
Yes.
You'd also like one that has a close-up of a particular member of the parade.
That gives you great opportunity if you really want to edit some videos together. I mean, try something like
And
that.
if somebody will try it and with something creative and demo it, I want to see it.
That's amazing that you could turn up.
I've got it on my
Yes.
mere 2-camera phone. You 3-camera people, it would be even more of a challenge.
Camera and
Yeah.
I'm gonna figure out how you would position yourself to do that.
I don't know how many people have seen that on TV ad that shows the snow thing, the skiing down, and it says it was all filmed using the iPhone. It's a remarkable ad. I mean, when I see that, the editing together, I mean, it's like you said, it's, you know, all these different images, slow-mo, fast mode, zooms in, close, snow. It really is impressive. You know,
The problem is when you're taking a picture or a video and you have an opportunity that just shows up quickly, you want to use the app with which you're most familiar so you don't mess it up.
yes.
But to learn how to use this one, which was a free app.
So it's called-
It was free when I downloaded it.
It's called Double Take, huh?
Double Take.
Trying to find the image I took, which was to illustrate something else. Let's see.
Right, hit the rotate so your thing is on the screen.
Well, I don't want to show what I'm on screen yet. I'm just looking through images, oh, there we go. This is a pretty good one, right? Okay. On our travels, we went to a bar that's called Smuggler's Cove. And I took this picture, and that's about, I mean, consider that even darker than that, how dark it was in that room. But it pointed out another thing that the new camera does. When it takes pictures in the dark, it turns on and takes several pictures on a timer, puts a little timing number, it says like 3 seconds. And it'll go through taking all these images, and then it magically uses the programming on the phone to find the best of each of those images and then create a final picture. So you can see a little movement up in the upper corner there, but most of the picture is clear. And this one has some movement too, but you know, in a really dark condition, it's really amazing the technology that they're using to take several images and put it together. That's like when it was using HDR and, you know, HDR and non-HDR. The HDR did not work if there was movement. Well, they've now corrected that problem that if there's movement, it tries to eliminate the blurred part of the images as best as it can. So that was another remarkable thing.
Roy, can you show the Double Take app in the App Store?
Oh, the Double Take, yes.
Alan, is this Double Take by Filmic Pro? Is that the one?
Okay, let me bring it up and share it, and
I can call it up here.
share the app.
Double,
I can do it with Libra.
here we go. Double Take.
Okay,
selfie
Double
and
Take, I've got, Roy, shall I send it to you?
Was this it?
Yeah, it's the one on the left. Yeah, Double Take by Filmic Pro. Yeah, so it's free.
Yeah, still free.
That is it.
Okay,
At the,
get that up there.
I think there's a bit of a learning curve to use it, but the concept is exciting.
Shot, reverse shot, multicam, pip or discrete, split screen, focus. Quite something being free.
And free.
Yeah.
Are there in-app purchases?
I don't know. I say I haven't used it yet. To avail myself of something where I'm going to use two cameras at one time, I need an opportunity, and I haven't had the opportunity yet.
Right.
So, I just wonder, since we're on the subject of photography, some of you may recall, the DxO came out about 4 or 5 years ago. It was $600. So I think it was a commercial failure. Now you can get it for $120.
Uh-huh.
So it's a 1-inch sensor, supposedly, got a little lightning port, and you click it onto your iPhone, and you get basically a 1.8, you get a much bigger lens and sensor. And you can use it as a standalone camera with a little tiny little screen, so you can point it, and it takes pretty high quality pictures. I've just been playing around with it, so I wouldn't have spent. I'm glad I didn't spend $600 on it, but for 130 or something. What's the name? DxO. So I'm sorry, DX0 might be DX1. So they have a photo processing app. This was something that was trying, because when this first came out, I think we were still on the iPhone 6 maybe, and I know I was interested because at that time the iPhone 6 wasn't really good at taking pictures like at cocktail parties or in poor lighting. So this with a bigger sensor was supposed to address that. So DX0, I think it is, or maybe it's DxO. Hold on.
Is it an app or?
It is a no. They need a hold on.
Or is it something that's available from like Amazon or something?
The camera is available on Amazon, but there is also software.
Software. Okay.
So the software is, I guess it's DxO1.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. See, the software can you can use that as a camera too.
Remote camera. Yeah. Yes.
On these apps that are free, what are they getting for us getting that? Is it they own the intellectual rights to all the video you shoot, for instance, or the right to post it on? You get what I'm.
Yeah. You have to. I guess you have to read the details.
This is the app connected, or this is the camera connected.
Because it's kind of suspect when something's using your camera. You don't know where those images are going through and coming back to your camera.
So why not get rid of lightning port?
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is more of a just a weird little accessory. I can't imagine. Well, it's nice because you can get it. It's not a big camera.
I use Safari to go out to weather.gov all the time. And you can put your zip code in, and it says, remember me. Most of the time it does remember me, but some of the times it forgets. What's going on?
This is on iOS or on Mac?
It's under iOS.
Well, it should set some sort of cookie. So unless it's clearing a cookie or clearing something in the setting, it should remember you. So
Most of the time it does.
yeah.
It's like a post office problem. A post office problem. You gotta pay your zip code tax.
You gotta be careful with anything that's not gov.
Right.
There are those issues like with location manager, like it asks you, this app wants to check your location, and you can do that all the time or just while the app is running. And so I think there are maybe various things there where sometimes it's clearing it out, when you say just using app, although again, if you're just using Safari.
Well, if it is using if it's weather and location, if for some reason the GPS can't you know, check your location and
I don't know that it's checking my location.
for weather one, it should. I mean,
No, if I put in the zip code, that's where it
the zip code, yeah, that's right, they should store the zip code, yeah. Hmm,
And the zip code points to Dallas, you know, and most of the time it points to Dallas, but it doesn't always point to Dallas. It just goes blank.
yep.
For advertising the post office.
That's with the government, you said, the
It's weather.gov,
weather.gov.
National Weather Service.
If you post that in the groups, IO or TCS, maybe Lawrence will approach that because he used to work for the weather service, so he might know why it would be forgetting, because he used to work for that agency. You blame him.
I'm not gonna blame Lawrence.
No. No, don't blame Lawrence.
He doesn't work for.
Now that he's gone, they're missing. So, you know, they don't have the technical expertise anymore. He's going.
Nancy?
Oh,
Roy, the thing I wanted to ask about is on the iPad OS, iPad OS 13, the one thing I don't particularly like is the App Store redesign, because 90% of the time when I open the App Store on the iPad, it's to update apps, and I want to get to update all.
Right.
But they've hidden it now.
yes, yes.
And it takes more clicks to get to it, and it's a pain in the neck.
It is. It's very confusing. I mean, it threw me because here's, you know, you go to apps and you get
Nancy?
this, and you get Today or something or whatever it's advertising, and search is down there, but you don't know how to handle an update. And lo and behold, the key to it is your little face icon that's up in the corner, you know, and that's kind of, you know, you click on that, and now, oh, here's stuff that's purchased, subscriptions you have.
You have to know to scroll down.
Yes, you have to know to scroll down.
And it takes a while to load them, too.
Right, because it's, and
I'm looking at mine now, and when I open it up and there are some apps to update, I see a number over my
Yes.
picture. So I tap
Yes.
that, and that brings up the update all. So I did realize when I changed to that, it was one extra click.
Yep.
But it's always in the same place.
yeah, if you don't notice, if you don't have automatic updates on, you won't get it. I mean, if you have automatic updates, it doesn't show, although sometimes when you go here, it will still show ones that you can click on update because it hasn't automatically started the updates. But as you can see, these are ones that have already been there. And you can also use this area to delete. You can look at a list of apps that have been recently updated and say, I no longer want Facebook, you know, deleted or whatever. Another app and say, oh, there's an app I didn't know I even had. Let's get rid of it. So that's how you delete apps too, which is another kind of, you know, it's an interesting way they implemented that. And then you go to purchased apps and it'll show the ones you've bought, the ones you're sharing. If you're on a family plan and you go to purchase, you'll see ones that other family members have purchased on your credit card. That's the key thing. But you still can't quite figure out why, if you put people on your family plan, why Apple doesn't give them the opportunity to pay. It doesn't. It gives only the primary account, the one to pay for any purchased apps. So I'll find my son buys some film for our granddaughter. So I say, wait a minute, I didn't want that film. So now I suddenly got Frozen 2 for $19. Wait a minute. But being a grandchild and a grandparent at the same house. So now I've got it. I haven't seen it yet, so now I can see it because he bought it. But it's also got your subscriptions too. So if you subscribe to any of the Apple services, iTunes or Apple TV or the game, the arcade, HBO's there too, the news.
Roy, do you want to give a little promo for your intent later on to do?
By games?
Yeah.
Well, no, I put something on groups and I put something in TCS just to find out any members that are playing games, because Apple Arcade or whatever, and they should just I'm just encouraging members to post the games they play. I'm not much of a groups game player, but maybe some people will post a game that is a group game and they might want to play the game as a group with members. But so I put that there as a survey, and it's going to be one of the future presentations I'm going to do on games anyway, sometime June or July. I play a few games and I might just talk about it. I got the arcade subscription, so.
So I was gonna ask a recommendation.
Yes.
I have an iMac. It has a Fusion Drive, 1 gig, and it's I think it's from 2015, 2016, something like that. 27 inch. A lot of my apps are will get screwed up if I change to Catalina. So I'm thinking about doing the double startup disks.
Partitioning.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you recommend that I get an external drive to do, I mean, how would you do it? I mean, I figured I'd do an external drive anyway, but how would you do the partitioning or what to keep on the machine and take off?
Sounds like another question for Bruce, but,
Well, I guess I partition solid state drives that have multiple OSs. And that's been fine. But I would be really worried about using a Fusion drive for that because it dynamically allocates different parts of the OS to the solid state versus the spinning drive. And so partitioning that could, turn you into a beta tester really quickly. So I guess I would be more inclined to go with an external solid state drive.
Or a regular disk drive?
Well, I think an external spinning drive is going to be
You see, I
slow.
think this one
Yeah.
behind him is.
and then you could boot off that solid state drive initially. I mean, that would
I haven't
probably work, wouldn't it?
I confess I haven't done that. I guess I have done, I used to use Drive Genius, and they gave you you could put an OS on a USB drive. So I've done that. So I have not regularly booted a Mac on an external drive. So
Right.
I can't say that I've done, but the Fusion drive is very, I have a Mac Mini with a Fusion drive, and it got corrupted once, and I ended up taking it to a repair place, and they were able to fix it. So I'm not a big fan of the Fusion drive.
Yeah, so
If now this is an iMac.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's really hard to replace the hard drive. I mean, if you could replace the hard drive with a solid state drive.
Well, I have to check it. I'm not sure. Maybe it is a solid state drive.
Yeah, well, the Fusion drive is too. It's like the 1 terabyte Fusion drive was like an 80 or 120 gig solid state drive and then a terabyte spinning drive. And it came, it sounded like a really clever idea. This was about 2012, I think. They came out. I think that's when I bought my Mac Mini, and because it seemed to have the best of both worlds, and it's good, but they didn't really carry it on that much. And again, I would think partition. I try googling it and just seeing what Googling
Well, first I'll check and see what the drive is.
Yeah.
But I just-
yeah.
Fusion drive.
Another option,
But I could be wrong.
I recall in the past, I once used a carbon copy cloner or something like that. Doesn't it allow you to boot to that carbon copy?
Yeah.
So if you created a carbon copy,
Carbon
Yeah.
copy cloner, yeah.
you should be, and test that, put that on an external drive or whatever, when you boot up, run that whenever you need your 32-bit. And then you could update your regular iMac to the newest system. You always have the carbon cloud. Because I ran that a number of years ago and I thought it was kind of nice, just click on that and suddenly it starts up your old system and it's got everything backed up. It's both a backup and an operating system. Yes.
Back to the doing updates, I was wondering if anybody here has used Apple Configurator. It's a Mac OS X app that has basically the screens that used to exist in iTunes for you to update the apps from iTunes. You download that app from the Mac App Store, and it lets you what we were able to do until iTunes 12.7.
Hmm.
I was just wondering because I was thinking I'm still stuck on High Sierra because I'm still on iTunes 12.6.5 something. It's the enterprise version, but if I want to buy a new iPhone, I'm not gonna be able to work with that. So I'm looking at testing. I was wondering if anybody else is testing it because it's going to be a bit of a change.
Yes.
for me.
Anybody use?
Why do you want a separate, another boot volume?
Oh, because I'd like to keep up with what's going on. But like I said, I have a bunch of apps that I don't feel like trying to pay to have them replaced.
I used to cut track in Final Cut Suite 7. It was like a 2012 iMac, and the more I updated it, the slower it got. And until I couldn't do anything with Final Cut 7. So I got a 5K for working now and learning Final Cut 10, but I took my 2012 iMac, reinstalled, the original system disks, and then installed Final Cut 7. So I used to have another iMac.
Correct.
So that's what I do, and it runs in its native original system really well.
Well, the things are not that old, but they can't change over to Catalina. That'll be 32-bit, right?
Jonathan, wasn't there something the English group was using that allowed you to run 32-bit apps? They had some program. I think you mentioned it, and I don't run any 32-bit app. Well, I do have a couple 32-bit apps, but I don't run.
I'm trying to remember the name of it, but the write-up of it raised a real question of its how easy it would be to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing that we can do is send out to the Apple Pie email list a link to that for anybody who might want to try to give it a try. I think we're at the end of our Q&A, so Roy, thanks so much.
Can I ask one question, not for Roy, but for the room? Is Michael Blower here? Because I promised to bring him stuff, very heavy stuff. that I brought, and so I hope he arrives. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for coming today. And if everybody got on the Mason Secure Wi-Fi okay, let's get started. And this is the great graphic that Richard Orland did for our Q&As. Bruce unfortunately couldn't make it today, even though we set up the old Pi laptop in the chair for him. So we'll probably get a story about that. So quickly, what I wanted to do were several things, something about the schedule, but I wanted to start with a tip from Alan Kent that he actually showed at the January meeting. Nancy, shall I just use this? And this had to do with, we were trying to show people how to access the Pi online check-in. We have the QR code over there, and that's the thing that we'll do the raffle from after the coffee break. And out of it, Alan made a suggestion of the easiest way with your iPhone to actually access a QR code that you encounter in the wild. And I'd like him to demonstrate that now.
Okay.
Alan, I think you can connect your iPhone to this.
Okay. Press 1 on the.
Yeah, get it to the, just press the button once.
Plug it in.
Okay, I'm just gonna get some first. Again.
All right.
There we go.
Everybody familiar with QR code? Is anybody not familiar with QR codes? Okay, when QR codes first started to become popular, the only way to read a QR code with your phone was to install a special app, such as the two on the bottom, QR reader or scan. They were both free, they both did the job. They scan a code, and if the code took you to a website, it would take you to Safari, and it worked well. Then Apple came along and said, hey, we can do a better job of it. And Apple included it with the camera. And with your camera app, if you held it in front of a QR code, if you held the camera, okay, here's a QR code. If you hold the camera in front of the QR code, you see at the top of the screen, open vqr.mx in Safari. It scanned the QR code and said, this is the way to look at it. So I will touch, you won't see me, but I'm gonna touch the thing at the top of the screen. And that should take me to,
You had to touch the Safari.
I touched at the top, yeah, I did. No, it's gone. Let's go back and do this again. Yeah, I touched,
that.
well, anywhere on the bar worked, so it didn't have to be that, but,
There we go.
okay, and this takes me to the link. That is not automatically, that capability is not automatically turned on. But let's go to the, let's go to settings, and we go to the control center. You see under general control center.
Customize.
I'm sorry, that's not what I wanted to do first.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do first is just, I'm starting from the most complicated to the simplest, and we looked at 3, which is the third-party apps. We go down to camera, music, TV, photos, camera.
Scan QR codes. There it
Scan
is.
QR codes. Okay, if that is turned off, scan QR codes, the camera looking at a QR code will not generate the link. If that's turned on, it generates the link. If you click on the shutter button on the camera, it just takes a picture of the QR code. It doesn't link to it, and that doesn't do much good. But it's a way of always finding it. Now, I don't know what happens when your camera's not working if you do this. My camera's working, so I can't demonstrate the flaw. Okay, but there's even a nicer way to do this that Apple gave us recently. And that is to go to the control panel. If you look on the screen, in the middle, under dock connector, the one on the left is a camera. The one next to it is the QR code reader. I'm going to press that button, the QR code reader, in front of this. It goes to, and it immediately opens itself. I don't have to push any extra buttons. I don't have to say, yes, I want to go to it. Now, how do you get that? Let's go back to there. That button for the QR code reader is not automatically in the control panel, in the control center. You have to go to settings and put it in. So let's go back to settings, upper right, settings, control center. Control.
I just usually search for it and type in customize, and that gets it.
Where's the search? I don't see a search.
At the top of the screen.
Oh, at the top of the screen.
Search.
Control center. Customize controls. To customize the controls, Apple gives you a large number of default control apps that are in there in the beginning, and some more at the bottom. In my case, Control Center is number 2, is right under camera. I added it. So if you do not have the QR code reader in your Control Center, you will scroll up until you get to the ones with the green plus
Now, you
marks.
can just do it. Hit the red to take it off. and
Okay,
then shut it out.
okay. I'm gonna remove it from here. I'm gonna say remove. Good point. QR code reader is now on the list of more controls, 3rd from the bottom. I'm gonna hit the plus sign there. It goes up and it is now the last item in the QR code reader list.
Yeah, so the odd thing a little bit is red is for the ones you already have and green is for the ones that you want,
Oh, I didn't know
that you
that.
can add.
Do you not want this? Do you not want this? Okay, I don't like it down at the bottom. I want it next to the camera, so I'm gonna drag move it and put it right under the camera. I can clear this. I can go to the Control Center, and my QR code reader is back there.
So the Control Center is from the top on the new phones and from the bottom on the older phones.
Yeah.
Any questions?
How are you dragging it?
Oh, the triple bars on the, you do that within settings. You can't do it from the Control Center page. I go back to settings.
Oh, I see, you push it up and down the,
Customize controls. The triple bar on the right allows you to drag it, and you drag it to wherever you want it. And I don't really know where I want it until I go back to the Control Center and say, no, I don't like it there.
Be nice if it showed an image.
If I could drag them within the Control Center, the way you drag an app
so it's
on the
gonna do
home
it,
screen.
it just opens it up. Thank you.
But to me, that is the easiest way. Now, why did I get into playing with QR codes? I've got a volunteer gig. Once a week, I go down to the U.S. Capitol Visitor Center, and they've got a lot of digital information, but they never had a good way of providing it to the public. And I said, how about QR codes? So I developed some QR codes that take us to some of these things. They have printed brochures in English and in 9 foreign languages. They have digital brochures for, I don't know, 14 or 15 languages. How to get to them? You just print up QR codes. And they turned out to be very useful. We had brochures, European languages. We've got French, German, and Spanish. I talked to a visitor from Italy. He didn't speak much English. I had a little Italian in college. She said, and I was passing out brochures in foreign languages. She looked and she said, Italiano? I said, I'm sorry. Mi dispiace. I'm sorry. I pulled out a card that had a list of all the foreign languages. She smiled, pulled out her iPhone, and grabbed my QR code. And within seconds, she had all of the Italian language translations. So I'm sort of excited about the use of QR codes.
Alan, thanks so much for doing this demo. So very quickly, the upcoming schedule, even though the March schedule starts with a February event, which is next weekend, we're back in the Clubhouse Saturday. In the
Nothing else there. You lost it.
Process of elimination. Yeah. And so we'll be back at George Mason on March 28th. And while we're, it's TBA for who the presenter will be, but a cool thing at that March meeting is all of you know about our GMU scholarship. Yes, everyone? So we have our 3rd scholarship recipient who is going to come talk to us at the March meeting. Larry Kirschberg is going to arrange that, so that'll be great fun.
About the Pi Scholarship, I wanted to be sure everyone knew that if individual members wanted to make gifts to George Mason to add to the Pi Scholarship, the envelopes for doing that are on the table over by the check-in. Oh, so we're still firming up things, but the good news is that Rob Peguerero has confirmed that he'll be here for our June meeting. And the June meeting, I think, will be at Cedar Lane in Bethesda. So that will be fun. And in April, it's going to be really cool to have Walt Mossberg back. So I'm really looking forward to that. At this time, Gabe, did you want to say something about POTOX meetings? Anything?
We have lots of wonderful meetings, just like the Pi does. We're on the third Saturday of the month, right near here on Roberts Road. And we do 2 meetings in Arlington, the first and fourth Wednesday evening. And other than that, it didn't occur to me to prepare for being able to say what the meetings are, but we have a great website just like Pi, patacs.org, PATACS.org. The first Wednesday in Arlington is a presentation. The fourth Wednesday is like your clubhouse. Bring problems, bring gear, and people fix it. And the third Saturday is 2 presentations over at the Ollie Outpost right on Roberts Road, patacs.org. And PATACS originated 100 years ago as a Windows group, but it's now much more inclusive than that. We have apps and all kinds of gizmos, and we do occasionally still talk about Windows. But if you're interested in if you're not getting enough technology here, you want several more days and nights during the month, go to patacs.org and come along.
Gabe is a wonderful evidence of the kind of trend for the Pi and for POTOX, which is, complete Windows people in their work and home all of a sudden got hooked on Apple mobile devices, and this is a great thing.
Well, and just to comment on that, I've installed iCloud on a couple of different Windows machines that makes them full participants in iCloud stuff that I have on all my mobile devices. So I can take a picture with my phone, go to my desktop system, and the photo that I just took is immediately available to print or email or do anything like that. And it's as though iCloud for Windows was done by a different company on a different planet than iTunes on Windows, which I used for a while when I had to and was awful. But iCloud on Windows is just brilliant.
Thanks, Gabe. I wanted to talk briefly about our Apple Pi email list. So who is already subscribed to the Apple Pi email list?
This is the groups.
Yeah, it's groups.io is a kind of successor to the Yahoo groups. And this is blossoming into, we have, I think, 38 members now. And so if you haven't subscribed to it yet, send an email to applepigroups.io or just go to groups.io. If you search for Apple Pi, it will yield us, and you can join with your email address. So that's the clapping to the people who have already joined. Very quickly again about the new Pi mugs. So we went through kind of a spate of including the mugs as raffle prizes, and I think that's kind of getting old with me. Soon, I will send out a link so Pi members who want to buy the Handsome Club mug can do that online. Right now, out of a suggestion from Dale, we're trying out a version of the club mug that has a QR code to the join page. So before I send a link for everyone, I first need to get a hold of one of those and see if it works, using the cool tool that Alan has shown us. About that quickly, so one of the mugs I brought with me today was the first one I did, which was from our afternoon learners meeting. And for the raffle today, we have 3 things for 2 winners, 2 Apple gift cards and this particular kind of mug. So I'm trying to take the suggestion that's been offered that for some people the mug is best and for some people the card is best, so you'll be able to choose. One quick thing, we're now in 2020 and in May we'll have by-elections. Now's the time for anyone who wants to step up to join the board of Washington Apple Pie. We have a separate email list for the board members. We meet quarterly, either at Cedar Lane or at a restaurant someplace, or at Ralph's home in different places. And anyone who wants to is interested in that. Just message me at president@wap.org, and I'll provide you with information to get on the ballot. So has everyone signed into the online check-in? Please, everyone do that, and after the coffee break, I'll do the raffle from the people who have signed in. Oh, Jay isn't here, but anyone who parked in the Shenandoah lot with $4 can get a subsidized parking pass that I will somehow pull out of the envelope. So anybody who needs one of those, let me know.
When I came on the compound, I was stopped by somebody who was supporting the homecoming thing. And he said that they're not collecting in the Shenandoah garage. Well, I'm not sure about that because I had to get a ticket when I came in. So
And the exit gates were down.
yeah,
I had the same experience, the same pitch.
You should be able to use it next time if you don't.
That's the quick answer is if you collect one now and you don't need it going out, you can use it the next time. So we will do our coffee break for about 20 minutes. And about 11, we'll have our star-struck presenter talk about neutrinos. Thanks, everyone.
And drink a lot of coffee. There's a lot of coffee out there, and they have oversupply. So get caffeine.
Talk to me about I need to turn the mic off. I'm gonna leave it running, but turn the.
I've been 2-fingering and going
excited about. And as people who live in this great country and who paid for all, no, not all, most of this, you should know. You should know some of the most interesting things that are going on. And I say that without any, people have a tendency to say, oh, what I'm doing is great, and you really should pay attention. I'll let you judge how important this is. I certainly think it is something that has very broad significance to humanity in general, what has happened in the last few years. And that's why, it's not being projected on the screen. Or, sorry, I was going to point to that. So I'll tell you what, while you're doing that.
Well, when you're in the classroom,
Right.
what's the normal way you do it?
Oh, I thought that's
Direct connection.
Yes. Okay, so excuse us for a second. Let's go ahead and the system. I wasn't paying attention. The system usually senses the computer and picks it up. So let's have a little fiddle.
Slides up there.
No, that's not it. So this looks all right. So I think this was loose. There we go.
Yay.
So let's go ahead and close that. Let's go ahead and put that in present mode. Okay, great. So that's why I've called my talk Living Through a Revolution, because that's what I really think we're doing. And I will talk about why I call that multi-messenger astrophysics. Something that if you were a big fan of astronomy, if you read, when you get to the last page of your book, there'd be a little paragraph there, kind of a throwaway thing. Someday we might be able to do, observe neutrinos. And that's how it always was. You're lucky if you had a page at the end of the book that said that, and we are living through that now. So John said I should introduce myself a little bit. Well, my name is up there, Rupesh Archa, but you just call me Ru. It's easier to remember. I think about a kangaroo. It's just like a lot friendlier. So I am one of the non-civil servants working at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. So I'm officially employed with the University of Maryland. That's why you see up there. But I go there about once a year. That's sort of how NASA works. I am very glad to be here. My background will come out a little bit during my talk, but basically, I'm an astrophysicist. I started out as a radio astronomer, which is one end of the spectrum, but quickly realized something that should have been obvious to me even earlier than that, that it's sort of obsolete to call yourself a radio astronomer or an optical astronomer or any particular wavelength of astronomy, because quite frankly, while it is true that you can't become an expert in everything, you better have a pretty good grasp of all the types of astronomy if you are to have any hope at all of answering any significant science question. That's going to be one of the key points that I would like you to take away from here. So today, I'll bring in relatively recent information. And the second point I'll come back to in a second. I'll talk about the moon landing, not just because it was 51 years ago. I'm going to introduce you to the biggest snobs in the universe. That's the heart of the snob. And then I have to mention a little bit about cosmic alchemy. I'm sorry, I just cannot not talk about this. This is really like one of the neatest things that's happened in the last few years. We finally know where Pepto-Bismol comes from. Anyway, and I want to end by telling you about humanity's new senses. So that's sort of the rough outline. We don't, this is not a syllabus, so we'll talk, and if you don't cover everything, that's fine. But yeah, I'll let you look at that newspaper headline from 51 years ago from the other end of the planet, or pretty close to the antipodean point of where you are now. And when I do that, I just want to stress something that I'm sure all of you realize. The role of a speaker like me, standing up here, has changed dramatically because of this thing called the internet, right? Or more importantly, broadband. Our role is no longer to give you information. You can get all the information and you can get it more accurately, easily. My role here is to give you context. My role here is more of a curator of a museum who sort of directs your attention and says, hey, you might want to look at this. You might want to look at this, right? And so it's in that spirit that I give this talk to you, right? Okay, so why have I started with a 51-year-old newspaper front page? I'm doing this because I want to make a very important point. There are times, there are events in our history which have very profound impact. And a lot of times, when they happen, they're not really appreciated. People have sort of looked back and said, oh wow, that's when things really change. This was not one of those times. When the first moon landings happened in July of 1969, I'm sure all of you are way too young to remember this, but if you talk to people who remember it, they will never forget it. And I forgot the exact number, but something like 1 out of every 3 people alive on the planet saw it, right? So there was no mistaking the significance of that event. And why? Because, like, again, it's really obvious. It was the first time to anybody. Like, nobody had to be told, oh, this is important because of this, right? It's like, oh, it's the first time we managed to get people to another celestial body and bring them back safely, which, you know, I say that because when I was a kid, I heard about the Russians at Laika, this dog in orbit, and then later on I found out that she died there. They didn't bring her back safely, which always made me very sad as a child. So, when I found out. So, anyway, so the reason I put this up is I would like to suggest that what's happened in the last 2 years actually is just as significant as the moon landing, but it lacks that immediacy. It lacks that moment, right? It lacks that drama. And therefore, I think it has largely escaped attention, the significance of this. And that's one of the key messages I want you to take away by the time I'm finished. If by the time I'm finished you don't understand, you may not agree with me, but at least we don't understand why is this guy talking about this having the same impact as the moon landing. At least you should have heard me make my case. All right, so let's begin with light, because, this gives me a chance to apologize in advance. I am aware that a lot of you already know about what I'm going to tell you about, just bear with me. I'm doing it for completeness. So, this, on the left-hand side of this figure, is the lowest energy light, which also has the lowest frequency, because those are directly related. And because the wavelength is inversely related, it has the longest wavelength. And those are radio waves. And below there, you have representative objects to give you a sense of the scale. And then as you move from left to right, it's higher energy, higher wavelength, higher frequency, and lower wavelength. And of course, we know and love this little chunk of light, the visible light, because that's our primary sensory organ. It turns out that it's not just we who love that. Most plants on Earth love that as well, and that's because of, well, 2 things, right? One thing is that kind of light makes it through the atmosphere, mostly. Obviously, occasionally it's very cloudy, you don't see as much of it, but mostly it makes it through. Our sun, our star, which obviously drives everything for us in energy terms and everything really, produces much of its energy in that waveband. So if you're a plant evolving on this planet, it makes sense for you to have photosynthesis and processes like that rely on that energy, right? So that's why that's really special, for everything on Earth, pretty much. In passing, I should mention that the only other kind of light that makes it through the atmosphere fairly well, without getting too distorted, is most of the radio band. The lowest frequency doesn't quite make it, and you start running into problems up here. But for the most part, most radio waves will make it through. Once you get above here, from here to here, all the way to almost here, pretty much nothing makes it through. That's why you need satellites. You need something that gets above the Earth's atmosphere. There is a little tiny thing bit over here which you can detect indirectly. Let's not go into that. So that's the traditional spectrum, as it's called. That's something that we're used to. And if you're an astronomer, or even if you're not, if you're trying to understand anything in the universe, and this includes nearby objects like the moon, like the sun, like our planets, getting information only from 1 or 2 types of light is not enough. And this is a fable which some of you may be familiar with. It shows a group of people who are born without sight, and they want to know what an elephant is. So the story is they're brought up to an elephant, they're all allowed to touch it. And so the guy who happens to grab the tail says, hey, an elephant is like a rock. Or the guy who walks into the side says, oh, an elephant is like a wall. And the point being made here, of course, is the only way these guys are ever going to figure out what an elephant is really like is if they get together and compare the information they have. So the analogy here is to all the different kinds of light. You know, radio astronomers get some information, so do gamma ray astronomers, so do X-ray astronomers. And the only hope we really have of understanding anything is if we all get together. So we've spent much of the latter half of the 20th century filling in, getting the information that we didn't have, right? Which mostly involved finding on Earth, it was building bigger and better optical and radio telescopes for the most part. And of course, on Earth, we're always playing this game that if you're, there's dealing with pollution, dealing with noise. So, you know, we've invented electricity, we all love it, it produces, we like lights, I don't think any of us really wants to live without electricity. But I mean, for example, if you live in a crowded continent like Western Europe hasn't really built a single serious research telescope in their own area because there's no point. All of their telescopes that they've ever built in the last 30, 40 years are either in the Canary Islands, which are nominally a part of Europe, but they're really off the west coast of Africa, or in Chile, northern Chile. That's where all the optical telescopes are. And radio is rapidly getting there. When I was an undergraduate, I won the opportunity to go to this site where they were building something called the Giant Meter Wave Radio Telescope. They were really excited because it was one of the most radio quiet places on the planet. This natural sort of big, mostly flat, but kind of depression in the ground, hardly any people living there, and everyone was very excited about it. And oh my God, you should look at the data from there now, because no one saw cell phones coming. No one saw that every Indian would have like 2, 3 cell phones, and they're just like so much noise. And well, anyway, I'm getting a little off topic, but I wanted to make the point that you need all the different types of light if you're going to make sense of just about any astrophysical problem, not just the one that I'm going to talk about. Now I'm coming to the revolutionary part. This is just a collage I threw together, showing different, ways of people studying the universe. And also to make the point that everything we know about the universe is through one messenger, and that messenger is light. Okay? Of course, for several centuries, it was just our eyes were the only instrument which were looking through it. And then ever since Galileo and gang got this idea of taking this newfangled invention called the telescope and turned it to the sky and discovered, right away, he discovered 3 or 4 things which seriously challenged our understanding of our cosmos. Since then, it's been telescopes. But you have to get all the way down to the beginning, to the early 20th century, before you have something other than just optical light, right? So everything we know has been up to date with optical light. Early 20th century. So I mean, I've started off with a figure from Egypt, of course, to give you a sense of the people already studying the skies. That's a stamp issued by some other country, but it's of Galileo. And this Carl Jansky, he's considered the father of radio astronomy. Believe it or not, that's a radio telescope. Different wavelengths. Light behaves very differently at different wavelengths. So the detection techniques are very different, right? So that's Carl Jansky with his son. This was the second big field of observational astronomy. And from the ground, we can pretty much just do those. Some very few exceptions. So, like if you go to the South Pole, you can do sub-millimeters. So that's what I was doing there. But those are very, that's very limited. It's basically these two, right? And then we had to wait till satellites became possible, and it was feasible to put instruments on satellites. And now, of course, I have the great privilege of working for this satellite that I picked over there called Fermi. I'll talk more about it shortly. That looks at very high energy like gamma ray light. So I just told you, and this, to keep people from falling asleep, I tend to ask questions. And the reward is, a bar. I usually eat bananas, but I'm sorry about that today. It's particularly sad because bananas is a handy butter. Anyway, so I just told you that everything we've learned about the universe before 2014 or so, we learned from the messenger of light. Are you guys buying that? You should be. That's not true. So can someone tell me? it's like over 99% true, right? But just for fun, there's one other way we've been learning about the universe. Even the ancient Greeks, their first idea of what the sun was, they thought the sun was a big glowing stone, a very hot stone. So there, give you a hint. What is the one non-light way that we actually have been learning about the universe? Gravity waves. Well, that's very recent. Historically. That's it's true. Since 2014, those are the two new messages. But I'm still talking about the background.
Tides?
Have a closer look at the slide. I put the hint right there.
Oh, meteorites.
Exactly. There have been rocks that have occasionally fallen out of the sky, and the ancient Greeks found some of these, and that's how they got this idea that the sun. They thought it was a piece of the sun, a chip from the sun that fell down. Perfectly reasonable thing to say, I feel. And that's where they got this idea that the sun was like this big, massive hot stone. And of course, there's you can add the fact that we're just talking about the moon landings. They brought back moon rocks. So those are one other way, which is not light. I just wanted to throw that out there because you can find exceptions to almost everything, right? If you think about it, and that's an important, if small, exception. Anyway, so that's the background. If you buy the idea that light has been our dominant messenger, what has happened, the revolution I was talking about, is since about 2014, and I have to say about because unlike the moon landing, which was like a moment in time, you can nail it and say it happened on this day at this time. I couldn't nail them an exact date when we can confidently say, okay, this was the time when the first neutrino was detected. Well, no, it's not that. You'll see that in a moment. It's very. But anyway, what's happened is we now can detect cosmic rays, neutrinos, and I haven't shown gravitational waves here because they don't quite fit. I mean, there's some which are at that end and some which are at this end of the spectrum. But the spectrum, the point of this is to tell you that we have doubled just the presence of the ability to detect neutrinos has doubled the range. So remember those blind men and the elephant? Well, it's almost like you double the number of blind men. So the number of possible channels to see the universe has doubled. That's already good. But the other key point is, it's not just that there are more ways to look at the universe. Neutrinos, which I'll talk about today, you'll see their properties are different. And therefore, they have the potential to bring you information that light simply cannot. So let's talk about neutrinos. Most people tend to refer to them as ghost particles. For some reason, I always think of them as snobs. Because the characteristic of them that makes them both a pain in the neck, but also really useful, is they don't interact. No, that's not true. They hardly ever interact with anything else. That's the way we put it, right? So when you think about it, when we say, I saw something, what does that mean? Physically, it means that a photon from that thing entered if you're looking with your eyes, it went into your eyes, it got converted into a signal, and your optic nerves sent it to your brain, and then it created an image, right? If you're using a telescope, the exact path might be different, but something like a particle of light or a few photons of light have to interact. They have to interact with your detector to detect something. Now, if you have an object which just won't interact, it becomes extremely difficult to detect. And that's why I call it snow. It's like it won't talk right away. You just walk right by. I don't know, I'm not talking about it. And an example, and these neutrinos, so let's see. They were, I have a slide for the history, so I'll go back on that. I just wanted to put this out there that lower energy neutrinos, there are about 65 million of them. If you hold up your thumbnail, lower energy ones, mostly produced by our own sun. There are millions of them passing through us, right through the Earth, out the other way, and they're gone, right? So there's a very large number of these particles. They're incredibly common in the universe. It's just that they don't interact with everybody. They just go right through most of the time. So the guy who came up with this, so I don't know if you guys ever wondered about this, but one of my pet little, one of the things that I think about every now and then is I'm always amazed at why. I'm not really sure if it's a sensible question, but I find myself thinking, why is math such a good description of nature? It is. I know it is, but I don't understand why. And this is one of those examples, right? So Wolfgang Pauli, who's famous for a bunch of other things, he was trying to explain something called beta decay, which is basically a very, any radioactive decay process which produces an electron, right? And what the problem with beta decay was, well, there was some energy that was not being conserved. There was some energy that was getting lost. And as we all know, energy is supposed to be conserved, right? And also there was some momentum that was going missing. So this guy, just to make the equation balance, out of nothing, he just creates a particle. He just says, to balance this equation, let's go ahead and invent this particle, which I don't think he even named it neutrino. I think Fermi gave that name. And he gave it the properties that would be required to make beta decay work right. And being an honest man, that's a quote from him. He says, I've done something very bad today by proposing a particle that cannot be detected. Because the properties were obvious to him. Like this particle would have, as I just said, it wouldn't talk to anything, which means it would be virtually impossible to detect. And remember, he did this back in 1930, when technology obviously was not as advanced as today. And it was completely inconceivable to him that somebody would detect it. Now, you know, the problem is, if you make a prediction that can't be tested, that's not science, right? Now you become a branch of theology. That's the whole point. So he was very aware of that. So he didn't even want to publish it. He sent it as a letter to his friends. He was very reluctant to publish it. He said, I've done something very bad today. I propose a particle that can't be detected. It is something no theorist should ever do, right? And a lot of people didn't take it very seriously. They was like, oh yeah, that's a cunning little mathematical device. But Enrico Fermi, coincidentally, after whom the telescope I worked for his name, he was one of the few guys who took it seriously enough, at least to try and use it, right? And then it took another 23 years after Pauli had proposed this, when these two guys, Frederick Rains and Clive Cohen, they studied radiation from a nuclear reactor, and they were able to actually detect it. And that's one of those things where I just like this is really amazing, because somebody just uses math and the basic laws of the universe as we understand them and says, well, there might be this particle. And then 23 years later, somebody actually finds it, right? So I'll jump over and show you a picture now of how I got to play a very, very small role in this neutrino saga. This is an aerial view of the South Pole, which has a station, a Amundsen Scott South Pole station. This is the geographic South Pole, just to be clear, because there's a magnetic South Pole way off the edge of the continent, and there's a geomagnetic South Pole where the Russians have a base for no reason that I can really know. Anyway, so back in the late 90s, 2000, I got a job running a telescope on the roof of this building. It's a sub-millimeter telescope, and the reason to have it there is it's like a poor man's space program, right? The air at the top of the South Pole is extraordinarily dry. It has really no water vapor. If you go there, you'll find out because it's really hard to breathe. It turns out that our bodies are not really designed to breathe air that's so incredibly dry. That's one of the. Everyone knows that it's challenging to be there because of the cold, but I'm not even sure if that's really the biggest challenge. The dry air was very challenging. But anyway, so this is an old picture. Today, there's a few changes, not least of which is, do you see this stuff over here, which it pretty much looks like a construction site? Just stuff everywhere. Because it was. What they were doing over there, near the telescope I was working on, was they were drilling holes in the ice. They were drilling holes in the ice which went more than a kilometer deep. And of course, they're using hot water. What else would you use? Which was one of the cool things because energy is at a premium at the South Pole. Every I should keep track. Okay. Give me a hint. How long I can speak?
It's 11:30.
Okay. I have to end by around 12, right? Okay. That's all right. So, what these guys, and it seemed crazy at first, right? So what they were doing was what people who want to detect neutrinos always do. Because the chance of a neutrino interacting is very small, the only way you can detect some of them is you make your telescope very, very big. Okay? If the probability of a neutrino interacting with whatever your detector is small, you deal with this by building giant detectors. So traditionally, the detectors that have detected lower energy neutrinos have been for example, there's this guy, Raymond Davis, he had a friend somehow who was powerful enough in South Dakota who let him use a big gold mine, the Homestake mine. And what he did was he basically filled a swimming pool with cleaning fluid, carbon tetrafluoride. And because the swimming pool, this presented a large enough target that he was able to detect a few neutrinos. That's the approach you have, right? And then some people realized that the ice below the South Pole is the cleanest ice that you can have access to. And so they went ahead, and at this point they were drilling what was something called Amanda, which was the precursor, the test, if you will. And they went on to build it, what's now called Ice Cube. And it's literally 1 cubic kilometer of ice, which itself is being used as a detector. That's a lot of molecules of ice, right? And at regular intervals, if you can picture this, it's a cubic kilometer on each side, right? And they have, at regular intervals, they have something that can detect this bluish light, which is produced very rarely when a neutrino does have to collide with the nucleus of a molecule of ice. It produces a bluish flash of light. It's called Cherenkov radiation, of a Russian guy who worked out the math of this. And these detectors detect a flash of light. And I'll show you a little bit. You can detect, and you can do two things. You can figure out how energetic the light was and which direction it was coming from. But I just want to show you that I'm not sure how much people know about the South Pole. But unlike the North Pole, which is over water, I mean, there's frozen ice over it, but it's water. The South Pole, of course, is a land. It's in the middle of a large landmass, and there actually is a pole at the South Pole, right? There really is a pole. Now, of course, it's a little bit notional because, as you know, that if you want to be technical about it, the axis of the Earth wobbles. It's called Chandler wobble. At any given time, you don't know that it's right there, but it's all fun. And once a year, the position is resurveyed because this ice sheet that you're standing on at the South Pole, it's moving sideways currently about 8 meters every year, right? And so if you look carefully, you can see under the right elbow of my friend here, the pole from last year. And it's kind of hidden, but they started doing this from, I think, 1974. So there's a whole bunch of these marching off into the distance, and they're roughly in a straight line, not exactly. And so every year, if you happen to be on New Year's Day, you have the privilege of having your name under the cap over here. You get your name over there, which yes, I was. And this whole thing moved. We take the sign off. There's an American flag here, and they move to the new pole. And then for a year, that's the South Pole, right? I didn't put a picture up here, but of course, when the Antarctica Treaty was signed, the first signatory, not there anymore. I think there's about 12 or 10. They all want their flags there, right? But working on there is really hard, and people don't spend a lot of time doing all this stuff, moving flags and what have you. So, a couple of 100 meters to the left of this picture, there's a fake South Pole. It's got a nice little globe on it. I can show you that picture here. And that's where all the other flags are, because we don't want to be bothered moving in. It's like one good place. And if you ever see a politician visiting the South Pole, you'll almost never see them taking this picture. They might. I mean, especially the American, they'll probably take a picture. But all the other guys go to the fake side. Well, it's not that fake, I guess. It's only 200 meters. But that's where all the other flags are. It's a lot of work moving them, and it's hard working outside, and who wants to keep doing that? So there's a couple of quick photos to give you an idea. So they're called digital optical modules, the DOMs, the detectors of the light I was telling you about. And they don't start right near the top. So the domes start a little ways down below the surface, because this part is screening out other particles, which would basically act as noise, right? So you're using this much of the ice as a kind of filter. And then over here, you have the 3-dimensional array of detectors, right? And so the control building today looks like that. I showed you the thing that looked like construction site. Well, today they've got a fancy looking building right there. This is a picture of one of those digital optical modules being lowered into the. So they basically lower it and just let it freeze in place, right? That is a cartoon that's sort of showing you what actually happens when all these neutrinos show up. So when it interacts, it creates other particles. In this event, a new one was created that travels to the detector almost at the speed of light. The pattern and the amount of light recorded They tell you the direction and energy. Those are two things you're getting from each type, right? The direction and the energy of it. So this is very, very, roughly how IceCube works. Now I want to sort of pause.
I'm sorry, so is that, all those colored dots are the result of a single neutrino?
Yeah, so the color coding is time. So the different colors indicate, so in this case, wait, I have to remember which one. Yeah, red is first, so the neutrino came this way.
Right, okay.
Yeah, which is how you tell the direction, right? If only one of the dogs saw it, you wouldn't know where it came from.
Right.
But it's kind of like, this one saw it first, this one saw it second, this one saw it third, lets you draw a line. Right? Well, it ends up being a cone, but I'm telling you roughly where it's coming from. Yeah, so that's the color coding is time that it was actually detected by that particular dog. Okay, so just to sort of bring the story down to earth by talking about a space launch. So everyone knew and loved this project. I think we were all very excited about it, sometimes for very selfish reasons. When we were there, this was, if you wanted a hot bath at the South Pole, that was the only place you could get it, right? You don't waste water. I mean, you get two-minute showers per week, and that's it. And these guys, of course, were drilling with hot water, so they had this big, massive thing on the side which had lots of hot water. So if you didn't mind taking your clothes off and jumping in, then when you get out, you quickly throw everything over and run into shelter. You'll see pictures of people at the South Pole in shorts and stuff like that. Trust me, that's only for like a second, right? You have your friend ready with the camera, you like leap out, take a picture, and you're sort of running. Right? Like, it's not like people are wandering around in shorts. Okay, so this is a launch of a satellite called Fermi, the Gamma Ray Space Telescope that I work for, and that's from Florida, of course, Cape Canaveral. A few quick things about Fermi, and we'll get right back to neutrinos. It's an extremely sensitive gamma ray telescope. It covers, this is not true as of last year, but this is one of the key things about it that has helped us so much in this new age. It actually rocks. Firstly, it has a big field of view. You know how most telescopes are great at getting detail, but they can only see a really tiny patch of sky. The great thing about it is you can see 30% of the sky. Okay?
Ru, can you remind us where Fermi is located?
550 kilometers straight up. Well, not at this moment, but
is that like geostationary or higher or lower? Or?
It's
not geostationary.
It's not geostationary. It's orbiting the Earth every 91 or 92 minutes, and that's right. And it's 550 kilometers from the ground. So, and if you go to one of the satellite tracking things, you can actually see where it's going. And it has this. It normally observes in this mode where it looks up, then after a couple of orbits, it looks down. So it used to be true that every 3 hours it covered the entire sky. You'll see in a moment why that's so significant. And because it's an observatory, it observes anything that happens to produce light in that kind of light, gamma ray light. And when it was built, it was already obvious that it would detect light from these objects called blazars, which I'll introduce to you in just a second. And that's what my story has to do with, but I just want to mention that it's detected gamma ray light from a bunch of objects that we expected to detect from, like pulsars and blazars, and from a bunch of objects that no one really expected to do it, which is always the cool thing when you build a new instrument, right? So there are these big thermonuclear explosions on the surface of white dwarf stars called novae. I don't know any theoretician who said we would expect to see gamma rays, but we did. We got like 5 novae detections now. The one that really caught me off guard was there's some thunderstorms that we've now detected. Some thunderstorms actually manage to accelerate particles energetic enough that we can produce gamma rays. So that's always like one of the fun things when you have a new instrument, right? But what I want to say is it's detected a few thousand blazars. Before I go further, no, I think I'll skip this. If you want, I'll want to know how that works, Fermi works. But this is an all-sky map using, I think this is the first 9 years of data. So we are in our 12th year, so this is data on the first 9 years. This bright band that you see across the middle, that's the plane of our own galaxy, producing a lot of gamma rays. But if you move away from this band, you can see a lot of little dots. And this is a little fuzzy in this picture. But almost every single one of these dots is a blazar. Okay, so by now you're saying, okay, you keep saying blazar. What are blazars, right? Let's go. This is my, 30-second introduction to what a blazar is. They are the most powerful class of active galactic nuclei. So now you're saying, what is an active galactic nuclei? So let's think about, it's our Milky Way galaxy. Our Milky Way galaxy does have a massive black hole in the center, but it's asleep. I mean, it's not doing a lot of stuff, which is kind of lucky for us. An active galaxy, so our galaxy would be called a quiescent galaxy, quiet. An active galaxy is much like ours, except that the black hole or black holes, we don't have the resolution to tell whether there's one or two of them there, and we have some evidence that there's probably two. But if we have the supermassive black hole that's at the center is active, it's ripping apart matter and spitting stuff out, generally making a nuisance of itself, and it produces so much energy that, remember, like a galaxy like ours is about 200 billion stars, right, roughly speaking, and almost all the light you're seeing in our galaxy is produced by nuclear fusion inside these stars. If you go to an active galaxy, the central black hole is producing so much light that it completely outshines all of the stars. So you don't even see them. It's like trying to see a tiny match held up in front of a giant spotlight, right? You just don't see that. And so that's what an active galactic nucleus is. Now, the most powerful class of active galaxies is called blazars, right? And in these blazars, the emission they see, the light you see, not just optical light, they produce all kinds of light. They go all the way from radio to gamma. It's dominated by jets, and the word relativistic here just means that these jets are traveling very close to the speed of light. All of you know that matter cannot actually reach the speed of light, but it's very common for them to be traveling 90-something% of the speed of light, which this is one of the real fun things, because then you can start applying relativity and get seriously weird effects. But we won't go into that stuff, so don't worry. And the relativity, to be a blazar, the jets are pointed towards us. So this is what the situation looks like, right? The supermassive black hole in this picture is smaller than a dot. We know it's sort of there, but you're not seeing it. It's on this scale, it's far too small. There are these two jets coming out opposite directions, and they're plowing their way through the clouds and gas, and then they end in these lobes, as they're called, right? This is not a blazar. What happens is, if you took one of those, and by random chance if it's pointed towards you, actually, I do have one of these props. So that's the idea. So, not to scare. At all. So that's the jet, and if it is like this, you're not seeing the relativistic jet boosting, and it's not a blazar. But if this is what is happening, that's a blazar. Okay, you see the relativistic jet pointing close to your line of sight, and that's when it looks really bright, and it has a bunch of other really neat effects. These are bright, they tend to be bright, they're variable, they produce a lot of gamma rays, so you find a lot of blazars with Fermi, and they're the home of the even among the giants, the truly big ones tend to inhabit these blazars. So that's what a blazar is. I threw this up because, this is the only graph I have, but I put a camel there, so it'll be friendly. Also because, I don't know about you guys, but in school they taught us that there were, the single hump camels and the double hump camels. And this is the first time in my life I've actually used this, right? This information. So basically, this is, remember the spectrum, you have the radio at the low energy end and all the way to gamma rays. If you take all the energy, now we can do this. We couldn't do this before Fermi launched 12 years ago. We really couldn't do this very well. So Fermi has just completely transformed things, right? But now we can. Now we have light covering everything from the radio, etc. There's a gap here, by the way, and not coincidentally, I'm involved in a group. We're trying to get a proposal through to build a satellite to cover this gap. That's really the only significant gap left. And as Murphy's law would have it, as you can see, there's a lot of emission from lasers there. That's always the way. Anyway, the point of this is to tell you that blazars have most of the energy over here and here, the two humps. And people like me, we've known for ages what causes this. We really understand and have strong experimental evidence that there's no serious doubt what creates this energy. We do not understand what creates this energy. We have a bunch of competing theories, Some are more plausible than others, but we do not yet have the evidence to tell you definitively what creates the high energy harm. That's just, I wanted to put that out there. That's a big unanswered question. That was just to tell you why I was so excited when Fermi got launched. Because before we had Fermi, we were in this ridiculous situation that most lasers produce all this energy in gamma rays. We couldn't observe in gamma rays. So I should put that up and really talk to encourage people to build this up. It's like you're looking for your key where the light is. Not where you might have lost it. I'm sure you've seen that one before. Okay, so this is where my student Mike Dutka, who now works for the Naval Observatory, and he used to be a Catholic at the time. We were doing our job. We were trying. The Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope is always observing, and we have weekly shifts where we basically, usually one or two human beings, we look at the data every single day. We look for anything that's different. We file a report anyway, and if there's something exceptional going on, we issue one of these things, which are still quaintly called astronomers' telegrams. That's what that tel here means, a tel. Obviously, once upon a time there were telegrams, but now of course they appear on the website, and if you are subscribed to it, you get an email telling you, hey, something just happened in the sky. And the point of this is the following, right? If occasionally these blazars will flare, they'll produce this humongous increase in gamma rays. And at that moment in time, or as close as possible as you can get to it, you want to observe with all the other kinds of light. Because that's your best bet at trying to nail down what the process is. That's the purpose of the astronomers' telegrams. It tells everybody in the world, hey, you got time, please look at this. Right? So Mike and I were on duty, and we happened to see this, object which rejoices in the name Parkes 1424-41. Those numbers are coordinates in the sky. That's how that's well, in this case they are anyway. And this particular object, it didn't just increase a little bit. It didn't just go up in flux by 10% or 20% or double or triple. It went up in flux in gamma rays. It brightened about 30 times what it usually does. It just went bananas. So of course, given how amazingly bright this flare was, we not only sent out an ATEL, we called everyone we knew who had a telescope of any kind and begged them to look at it, right? And so we had all this data. Remember, at this point, we're not thinking anything of neutrinos. Nothing. There's no mention of that word here. We're just doing this because we care about blazar, and this blazar is doing something strange. Okay, very strange. So we had all this data, and we were, collecting this data, reducing it, trying to understand the physics, doing the calculations. When lo and behold, the IceCube people, they published their first confident detection of neutrinos. They're like, okay, we got this list of a few, I think it was a couple of dozen to begin with, and these are our detections, and these we are pretty confident about. And we're looking through the list, and we go, wait a minute, I know this guy, right? And then it turned out that this guy, this red line, so this axis, forget the units, they're not, these are units astronomers use, Julian days. But the point is, you can see this purple line is showing you roughly the average gamma ray flux. You see how it went up, and kept going up, and kept going up, till here. So this shaded zone shows you where the gamma ray should go, right? The red line here is the time when the neutrino was detected. As you can see, it was like, pretty much right in the middle of this massive increase in flux. Oh, I don't know if I said this already, but apart from the 30-fold increase in gamma rays, it got really bright at all the other wavelengths as well. There's clearly something big going on. So it turned out that, by the way, the picture of Big Bird is there, not because I was just trying to be cute, but because IceCube named their first couple of dozen detections, they gave them individual names. This one was called the Big Bird. so Big Bird turned out, okay, before I go on. So the coincidence in time and space suggested, and it is no more than a suggestion, that perhaps the neutrino could have come on this laser. And this is perfectly plausible because those jets that I was just telling you about, they provide a mechanism which very naturally produces both the gamma rays that we saw and the neutrinos. So it's plausible. But then you have to always ask yourself, well, what if it just happened by chance? So that was probably the most difficult part of this story. We had to spend a lot of time figuring out, and I think Gabe will tell you that the last talk he heard me give, a lot of it revolved around getting the statistics right. And that was definitely the hardest part of this, because we were trying to get a handle on what is the chance that this was just a coincidence. There are 3,000 lasers out there. Okay, you got a neutrino. Okay, it happens to coincide in time and space, but hey, that could just happen by chance. Well, when you run through every possible scenario, and boy, we had a lot of discussion on this, it turns out that the significance of this discovery, not that great. It turned out to be a 2 sigma, for those who are familiar with that, right? You would not bet your power on a 2 sigma discovery. I would advise you to do this, right? So it was suggestive, and everyone suddenly woke up and said, hey, we can play this game. We can do this. This was in the actual event, as you can see, happened late 2012. We got our chance in 2017. No, the actual event happened in 2016, where this rather obscure object, which has the name Texas 0506 plus 056. The Texas in the name is because the survey was done using a Texas telescope. Just like the earlier name, the Parkes is a reference to a telescope in Australia, the survey. Oh, and the number will just tell you the coordinates in the sky. This guy, so the first guy I told you about is actually a fairly well-known laser. This guy was really obscure. We didn't even know its redshift. As you know, redshift gives us a measure of how far something is. And if you don't even know how far a blazar is, then you can't calculate anything, right? I mean, you can't calculate how bright it really is, because obviously if it's closer, then it probably has to produce less energy to be seen. If it's twice as far away, it needs to produce a heck of a lot more energy to be seen. So we didn't even have, we have of the 4,000 odd blazars that Fermi has detected, several hundred of them, we don't even have redshifts for. Now, here's what happens, right? There's a little bit of sociology here. To get redshifts, we need time and optical telescopes. These guys already are not within, small optical telescopes are not going to do the job. You need time on the really big guys, right? Like the 8-meter telescopes. Time on 8-meter telescopes is very precious. And it's very competitive. And you go and tell them, hey, I want to measure the redshift, of these guys. You better have a really strong justification, because they were far more interesting things to do, right? So this guy we didn't have a redshift. We didn't know how bright it really was. It was just there, right? Then what happens is IceCube finds a neutrino that's very close to the location of this. Now you got a reason. We got, one of my colleagues who asked for time, he got time of the 8-meter just like that. It's like, yes, please use my telescope. It just completely changes, right? And we had a redshift. Once we had a redshift, we found out that yes, it is a genuinely really bright laser, right? And we played the same game here in the sense of doing all the math. This time, the localization, the ability to nail down where it came from, is way better, because this was a different kind of IceCube detection. The significance for this one, much better than 2 sigma. I still wouldn't bet I definitely wouldn't bet I don't know if I bet my card, but we are at 3.5 sigma. Better. I still wouldn't go out there and say, we have definitely nailed down the fact that these neutrinos come from blazar. I definitely would not say that. But it's beginning to look good, right? And that was I just threw that out there because, one of the things I really enjoyed was once people, by this time, it takes a little while to get strongly aware of how, when something, great is going on. Each of those data points that you see here, starting all the way down here in different radio points, optical, X-ray, gamma rays, etc. Right? Each one of those represents a different telescope. So the number of people who got excited, who jumped in, and who produced, who gave us the information to make this plot is incredible. And this and the follow-up of the fifth gravitational wave event, which I'm not talking about today, but if you're interested, you can ask me a question. I'll tell you about. It's very, very interesting to me because, without any doubt, these two astronomical phenomena were observed by more telescopes than any event in history. Because everybody with a telescope could see that part of the sky swung around and look at it, right? And we need that information. We really do. We are long past the situation, past the age where, I got a great radio image, I'm going to go and write a paper. Well, you don't have enough information only at any one wavelength to do a whole lot, right? You can show off a little bit and say, hey, I got this. But it's like, okay, what is that telling you about the physics? And you have to go, well, not really very much until I take into all the other accounts. I want to just point out that I've talked a lot about IceCube because that's the most productive and already working. But there is a similar effort in the Northern Hemisphere. It's in the Mediterranean Sea, and it'll eventually have a more catchy name to move. It's called CameCube.net. And it's been built in different parts of the Mediterranean. And I only want to say in passing, because I noticed when I put this picture up that there's some kind of marine creature mentioned over there. And it turns out that they're having a lot of problems because way down, I haven't given you chances to earn fast. I've given you enough hints. Come on, someone guess. What unexpected problem that they're having that I'm about to tell you? Can you guess it? Remember that the whole purpose is they're trying to detect faint bluish flashes of light, right?
Water filters it out. Water filters it.
Not quite.
Electric eels.
You basically got it. There are animals deep down there which emit, they have phosphorescence, they emit different kinds of light. And that, I understand, is proving to be quite a challenge. That's a problem they didn't face at IceCube. There's not a lot of fish swimming down there. It's always neat, isn't it, when you go to and IceCube itself has now that it has its success, they brought back to the National Science Foundation. And so the biggest problem right now, I've already told you, we have a 2 sigma detection, we have a 3.5 sigma detection. So what's going to make it better? What's going to get us to the point where we really start doing solid science? And the answer is we need more neutrinos. We basically, now that we know how to do it, right? I'm sure you guys.
Excuse me, Ru, 15 more minutes.
Okay, that should be better. Yeah. All of you have experiences in different things in life, and you know perfectly well that when you go and ask for a ton of money to do something, you need justification, right? You need to be able to tell people. So now we got something. We've shown that the dog can sing. So now we can focus on making it do solid science, right? So this is the proposal to expand it from this current 1 cubic kilometer to 10 cubic kilometers. Whether it happens or not, I have no idea. That's way above my pay grade, right? Mm-hmm. This was going to be my last 2 slides. Going back to the significance. Well, before I talk to you about TARS, the way I think about where I am right now is I imagine being born without one of the senses I have. Okay, so for the sake of argument, I imagine myself being born without my hearing, and having lived my life up to this point without a sense of hearing, and then I wake up one morning and suddenly I can hear. Suddenly I have a new sense, a new way of understanding the universe about me. If that were to happen, I'm not going to start appreciating classical music straight away, right? It'll take me a while to exercise the new sense I have, to understand what it can do and what it can't do. And then eventually, maybe in a few years, I'll figure out how to appreciate music. That's where we are. We have suddenly, after thousands of years, depending on when you think humans started, and it was more than 4,000. Anyway, we've had light. Light has been hit. That's how we've exposed the universe. We suddenly have the neutrinos that I talked about a little bit today, and gravitational waves, which I didn't talk about today. We have 2 entirely new senses. And neutrinos, to come back to our topic, they are different because they are snobs. They don't talk to each other. The significance of that for an astronomer is the following. Light is like a chatty guy, okay? So let's say you need to send a message, a really important message to somebody down a long corridor, and it's full of people, right? And you hand the message to a light, and you hand the message to a neutrino. Neutrinos grab the message, does not talk to anybody, just walks rapidly down the corridor and delivers. Light is like the chatty guy who's like, hey, how you doing? And, stops for a cup of tea. And, by the time the light gets there, a lot of it doesn't even get there. So light gets absorbed, light gets scattered. Even when it makes it, it gets delayed. A number that I'd love to throw out there is, neutrinos are produced at the core of our sun, because nuclear fusion naturally produces lots of neutrinos. So is light, right? Nuclear fusion at the core of our sun produces light and neutrinos. The time taken for a photon produced at the center of our sun to get to the surface of the sun is measured in the millions of years. There's a distribution. It ends up being a few million years before a photon makes it from the center of the sun to the surface. Guess how long a neutrino takes to get from the center of the sun to the surface? 3 seconds. Okay? That, in a nutshell, tells you why astronomers are so excited. Neutrinos, if we can grab them, I'm not trying to underestimate how difficult. I hope I've conveyed to you. It really is a hard job, but we can do it now. They bring us information from those parts of the universe which are the most hidden behind clouds, behind all. Oh, and I should also, it's very important to also mention they're neutron. They don't have a charge. That's important because big chunks of the universe, and again, some of the most interesting places, like the most dense cloudy places, have very intense magnetic field. And what do magnetic fields do? They change the path of a charged particle. And that completely messes you up, because if you're trying to, think about it, right? So if I have a neutrino that's coming, let's say you are on Earth and I'm coming right at you, well, you've got a strong magnetic field, it's not going to get there, it's going to go there, right? The photon is not, a charged particle, like cosmic rays, will not get to you. What will get to you is something coming from over there. But you can't tell where it came from, because you don't know exactly how strong the magnetic field was and what its direction was. Neutrinos have those two advantages. They don't talk to anyone, so they don't get affected by magnetic fields. They don't get absorbed by dust. They don't get, scattered by anything. They just come right through. And that lies at the heart of why we are so excited with neutrinos. Okay? It's a completely different way, but it's not only a different way of looking at the universe. It carries information that we cannot get from light. And now I'll wrap up by saying, the very first talk I gave after we did it, I made this slide, and I represented electromagnetic spectrum with a whole detailed chart. And I represented neutrinos and gravitational waves with 2 flashy green cards. And I immediately realized this is completely false, and it's a complete misrepresentation. Okay? I was like everybody else, I got excited about the new things and devalued the older things. The real situation is this. The real situation is electromagnetic light, astronomy done by light, is very strong. We are in a golden age. It would be very fair to say that. We are a good, solid, reliable golden age when it comes to light. The two new things, neutrino and gravitational waves, I think of them as 2 babies. Okay? They are healthy, it's promising, but we don't really know where they're going. You don't know where a baby is going to do, or what a baby is going to do when they grow up. So I leave you with the thought that we've gone from one sense to 2 new senses. I don't think there's anybody, certainly not me, who can tell you what direction this is going to take, or what exactly it's going to tell us. But it doesn't seem at all a stretch to me to say that what we learn about the universe is going to, we're going to completely change our understanding of the universe. I just couldn't tell you in what way. We have 2 healthy babies, let's see how they grow up. Watch this space, and thank you so much for your attention. I will appreciate any questions you have. Thank you.
Questions? So observational astronomers of late have been excited to see the dimming of Betelgeuse.
Yes, yeah.
All right, and as hoping, why not? That it may go supernova. Could happen, now. Okay, and so I guess my understanding is that the neutrinos from that event would get to us first. Slightly faster, I don't know where I saw, but like 24 hours before maybe the light would get to us.
I'm not sure.
And so we could, I guess the hope would be that we might get a signal that, Betelgeuse has gone supernova, quick, let's get all of our telescopes pointed over to it.
Right. I think that's unlikely, because neutrinos actually travel slower than light.
Ah, okay.
So neutrinos, aside from being snobs, they kept going on over hundreds.
Right.
one of their other interesting properties is they're very nearly massless,
Right.
but they don't have zero mass, right? So, and therefore, they move very close to the speed of light, but not quite as fast as light, right? Now, of course, they get through everything. Like I was telling you with the sun, right? Light just spends a lot of time bouncing around, and the average photon from when it moves from the center of the sun to the top has had several million collisions. But once you're out in space, then neutrinos will be slower than light.
All right.
Just a little bit.
It's 600 light years away. So
Yeah. Well, what we are seeing now obviously happens 600 years away.
Right.
So who knows what's coming after that?
Right.
I did. I put that. This guy is a particle physicist. Usually at CERN, I don't know where he's now. There's a lot of truth in that. So I put that out there. It's mostly the art of learning a great deal by observing nothing. So, for example, we still don't know what the mass of a neutrino actually is. We keep moving the limit lower and lower and lower. We know it's not zero, but it's something, which means that by definition it can't go as fast as light. Yeah. But yeah, Betelgeuse, that's kind of fun. I mean, the only naked eye supernova was the one that the Chinese astronomers recorded, right? In 54. Yep. And that'll be something really cool. And hopefully this time people won't be terrified of the world's going to end. Sorry.
So, Ru, could you talk a little bit about maybe the answer is just the baby slide you showed of how the challenge of detecting neutrinos compares to the challenge of detecting gravitational waves?
Okay.
Is one harder than the other? Is it related at all? Is it?
Okay, so it's easy to say that they're not related very much because the technologies are extremely different, right? I don't know if I can tell you which one is easier, quite honestly. So just really briefly, with the neutrinos, I told you a little bit about how the challenge in the neutrinos is mostly about getting enough volume. Maybe I would go out on a limb and say that the gravitational wave is at this point harder. I'm not sure about this. With gravitational waves, the technology is completely different. It uses something called interferometry. So I have actually got a picture here which I can. So the two gravitational wave detectors that exist in the United States, one in Hanford, Washington, the other one in Livingston, Louisiana. And from the sky, that's what they look like. There's one long arm, and it's like an L-shaped thing, right? And there's a laser coming from this one, there's a laser coming from that one, and the building in the middle is where the two interfere. And what you're looking at is a really tiny, so when two beams of light interfere, they produce something called an interference pattern, like a pattern of light and dark. And when the gravitational wave comes through, it distorts the very fabric of space-time. And so what happens is and this happens when you accelerate a truly, massive object. So I think I have the numbers over here. So the very first one that was detected, the two black holes that merged had 29 and 36 times the mass of the sun, and we determined the distance. It was 1.3 billion light years away. So that's how you know how long it happened. And I mean, I find that number staggering. So I'll just put it there. 3 times the mass of our sun was converted into gravitational waves in a fraction of a second. It's like this is staggering thing. But because by the time it gets over here, this is the actual detection from LIGO and from the Livingston and Hanford data. LIGO is the whole project. It's called Laser Interferometric Gravitational Observatory, and again, this is one of those things where you think, why does math do such a good job of describing everything? This profile, this might look pretty random to you, but pretty much every squiggle of this was predicted. That's how you can actually put in the numbers. General relativity works that well that you can put in these numbers. In case you're wondering how did I know? The stuff that I just threw out at you. How do we know that it's like 29 and 36 times the mass of the sun? Because you can put that into the equations, solve them, and try to match them and see what you have to do, how you have to adjust the numbers to make them fit what you actually saw, right? So if you look at these squiggles, they are like, if you look very carefully, they're not completely identical, but but that's within the expected noise, right? And because you know the speed of light, you know and you know that which one of the two observatories detected first and how many fractions of a second after that, and you know the distance between them. That's how also you tell the direction, because if this guy saw it that much first, you can calculate roughly. It's not a very precise calculation yet. It gets better as you keep adding more interferometers. So now we have one functioning in Italy. That's enormously improved, because otherwise what happens is you say, okay, it's coming from there, but the there is like a big patch of sky. And there are like thousands of objects there. So you don't really know where it's coming from. You need to narrow down where it's from. So anyway, so I think that at this point, I'm not sure. It's hard to compare two very different technologies. They both they obviously work. So now it's gone from, hey, we don't know what the heck we're doing to, to okay, this works. We're going to make it. I guess I don't know the answer. If you push me, I would say maybe the gravitational wave seems a little bit more difficult now, but I'm not really sure about that. But the important thing is they both work. And the path forward from now is a lot easier.
This is a fabulous story. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Oh, you want the question list. I'm sorry. Who else asked the question? Oh, who did I miss out? Come on, guys, don't be shy. Someone asked the question, really.
Yes.
Oh, no.
I think it was yours.
All right. So, so I'd be happy to take any other questions. I mean, do you buy the argument that this is a revolution? That I'll tell you honestly, I feel incredibly lucky because I didn't build either of those. And I'm going to be talking about gravitational wave. This is the other thing, right? I didn't build either instrument. I was working for Fermi, and I guess, you can say things like, oh, chance favors the prepared person or whatever, right? But we just lucked out into, the gravitational waves also. The first 4 mergers were black holes. Now, I love black holes, don't get me wrong, they're my favorites. The trouble with black holes is, once you detected the gravitational waves, that's it, right? They're black holes. There's no light coming out from the merger. There's not much you can do. You figure out the black hole masses, you figure out where they were, and it's like, yay, that was great. We proved Einstein yet again. But the 5th one was really neat. The 5th one was not 2 merging black holes, they were 2 merging neutron stars, right? And the neutron stars, what happened was, Fermi, as I said, we look at the star all the time. That's proved to be so cool, right? So it just so happened, like the 5th one, again, they said, okay, the gravitational wave came from there. But the there is this enormous banana-shaped patch of sky. So everyone else whose telescope can only see a small bit of sky, they're all sitting there going, okay, great, but where do I point my telescope? I mean, it really is that fundamental. It's like, okay, great, I will point my telescope, but tell me where to point it. And what happens is we see 1.8 seconds after the gravitational wave detection, boom, we see a flash of light, right? And our eyesight is much better than the gravitational wave, right?
So is that the gravitational waves move?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm mixing up, would it be the LIGO that would detect, like if Betelgeuse went supernova, would the LIGO
know if the
perhaps
signal
get it?
Right, I think that it's just not massive enough.
Okay.
You have to be a pretty big guy to produce a gravitational wave that we can detect.
Okay.
But I will take you just a second. I just want to show you this. So what happened was, more than 20 years ago, a bunch of theoreticians, Brian Metzger being probably the most famous one, worked out that we still didn't know until 2016, 17, where a bunch of the elements that are made. I mean, we have this, so if I go to this, there, everything there that is not this color, that's not yellow, we sort of knew where they were made, right? But anything that's yellow, we didn't know where they were made. And that's a whole lot of the periodic table. Now, people like Brian Metzger worked out that merging neutron stars, the conditions are right, and they would produce these elements. And then they went further, they didn't do what Pauli did and create an untestable theory. They actually made very specific predictions of what you'd expect to see in different bands of light. And that was the cool part about this. When at Fermi, we saw 1.8 seconds after the gravitational wave, we saw this flash of light coming from this part of the sky. Suddenly, everyone knew where to point the telescope, their telescopes. So now we had all this whole vast array of telescopes. This was the first optical image. The before image is on the right for some reason, it's a little confusing. But you see that arrow is pointing, that's what appeared. And this was taken, they don't say it, it's one of the telescopes in Chile. And when you look at the way the light changed all the different wavelengths, it was scary. It exactly matched what the theoreticians had felt in 20 odd years before. So it's one of those things where suddenly, I mean, many of you are wearing probably wedding bands made of gold. Right? Well, we finally know where gold is made. And I left the number off here, but Brian Metzger calculated we can calculate the amount of gold that was made. A pretty good approximation. And at the current prices at the time, 3 years ago, it worked out to something like 800, if you on the market price of $800 billion or something. And people always joke, it just shows you astronomers suck at economics, because obviously if you found that much gold, the prices would not stay the same. So I just wanted to say that for me, one of the most thrilling things from that has already happened is we finally know, and I made that joke where we know how Pepto-Bismol comes from, because bismuth is an important component of Pepto-Bismol, and bismuth is one of the things that is also produced by emerging neutron stars. And it's really great because for the first time we have built in the periodic table. We now understand where all the elements come from. So that's already been, that baby is growing up. Oh, sorry, you had a question.
So the science of looking at nothing,
Yeah.
looking forward to something.
I guess, yes. Yeah. But it's amazing, right? Like even when you get a null result, it can help rule out some of the options. So you move forward, right? Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to show this at you. I'll hand it to you.
Rue, thank you so much. So Rue, if you can send a PDF of your talk, we'll share it with Dale, and Dale produces a very high quality video podcast.
Sure.
Thanks everyone for coming today. And the last thing I wanted to mention, as I put in the announcement email, is that several of us are going to go over to the Arts Building for the Off the Wall festival that's going to come today. And this is going to be full of lots of food and drink. So the $30 a ticket is actually small compared to the amount of craft beer that's apparently going to be available.
Other wines.
And Roy, thanks so much again for bringing this up. The PI has made a great partnership with George Mason, and this is just one event. So we're going to have a table at the festival. Anyway, thanks everyone for coming today.
So you're a wonderful speaker you are. So thank you so much.
Nice summer. All right.
Your president show.
Second go first. 39 minutes after the first one. Aaron's face.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, I